How's it going, everyone? I want to talk about a lot of PlayStation news and notes. Intergalactic, I think it's fair to say, is one of the most divisive big-budget PlayStation exclusive reveals, especially single-player exclusive reveals, in a very long time. I know whenever I talk about this game, it is going to be quite a wild comment section, but we're gonna talk about it once again. And I hope people will at least listen to what I'm saying and, assess some of the metrics that are on the table as far as what we've seen. And I think a lot of it is pointing towards this game, at least at this point. I don't think it's gonna do incredibly well, and yes, we don't know a lot about it. I get that, but I'll explain more. We are getting some insight into the game, and it is gonna look to feature some horror elements as well. We'll talk about that. Big update on Square Enix and Final Fantasy as far as exclusivity is concerned. This has certainly become a talking point across the board, so we'll talk about that. And speaking of Square Enix, NieR Automata shipments and digital sales have done very well. We'll talk that at the end of this video. But right off the bat, Naughty Dog's Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, is set to feature horror elements as well. This news comes from Jonastic, a Spanish YouTuber who follows Naughty Dog closely, and according to Naughty Dog's concept artist, Ty Martinez, whose portfolio includes designs rooted in horror and suspense, and Colin Lormier, another artist who tagged #horror alongside other genres on social media posts related to the game. Noting Martinez's profile notes, self-taught artist of 10 plus years specializing in cinematic horror and thriller concepts, using a blend of photography and Photoshop to create realistic cinematic pieces to inspire developers in world building. Lormier is working as a story artist at Naughty Dog and collaborated with Neil Druckmann on the initial pitch for the trailer. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, has finally been announced, Lormier said in a post on Instagram. I worked on the initial board pitch with Neil Druckmann and a bunch of talented Naughty Dog artists back in 2023. The trailer's a great tease for what's to come, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together. A lot of his imagery does definitely point towards more of a horror vibe going on for it. And the game itself, based on the trailer, remember, the game is set in this stranded planet, or you get stranded in this planet, and I do feel like it's got more of a dark and horror aesthetic to it. So there has been a lot of talk around this game and a lot to talk about the game. And look, remove your own personal opinion on whether or not you're excited for the game for a second. Let's just assess the metrics. The YouTube video on PlayStation's official channel has an absurd amount of dislikes. Orders of magnitude more dislikes than likes. And dislikes aren't visible, but they are available to see via extensions. And then beyond that, if you just look at the comments section, again, on YouTube's official, on PlayStation's official YouTube page, this is their official page, it's just a crap show on people crapping about the game. This is a brand new IP from Naughty Dog, and it has made a horrible first impression in terms of getting everyone excited about the game. And I really do think no matter what they do, it is going to be very, very difficult for them to come back from this level of pushback. And you know what? Do I think this game is mechanically gonna be a well-made game? I do. I think Naughty Dog is talented enough, and I saw that with Last of Us Part 2. It was mechanically a really well-made game. I think the vibe and the atmosphere is gonna be great. I think sound direction is gonna be fantastic. However, that initial impression is so important for the promotion of the game, especially when you're talking about a narrative-driven single-player game like this. And character design, let's just be honest here, for a large portion of people that do buy video games, they find the main character to be unappealing, and an appealing character design, I think, is incredibly important, given that we've seen that be an important factor to so many games. And on top of that, this being a single-player narrative-driven game, I think that being a crucial element of the game and that turning people away, I do think that's totally valid. Obviously, this is a game that got greenlit in 2020 or 2021. The toothpaste is out of the tube. They just gotta go with it. The game is long enough in development that they're just gonna have to release it. Do I think it's gonna be this absolute train wreck of a bomb? It's a Naughty Dog single-player game with a big budget attached to it. I don't think it's gonna do Concord levels. I've been seeing that rolled out a lot as far as the game doing Concord numbers. It's not gonna do Concord numbers. Do I think it's gonna do well relative to what Naughty Dog has put out in the past in terms of numbers? No, I don't think this is gonna push Last of Us level numbers in the long term. I don't think it's gonna become an IP at the level of Last of Us. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. That's why we talk about these things. I'm very excited 2 years from now to dig up these videos because my comment section has been a crap show. There's been a lot of people agreeing with me. There's been a lot of people vehemently disagreeing with me, and it's gonna be fun to see how it rolls out. However, I've had a lot of conversations with people that are incredibly excited about the game, and I think that notion of just dispelling any sort of criticism for this game, when it's this level of criticism, you guys, it extends beyond a vocal minority. It's very important to tell when something's a vocal minority and when there's a large-scale pushback for the game, and that's where I think the issue of conflating The Witcher 4 and Intergalactic is a very big problem. Witcher 4, very much a vocal minority. Witcher 4 is, in my opinion, is gonna do very, very well, and it's gonna have no issues. I think the vast majority of people are all aboard Ciri being the lead protagonist of the new set of Witcher games. Geralt has his stories, I get some of the complaints, but I think Witcher 4 is gonna do fine, and look at the like to dislikes with Witcher 4. Look at the reaction on the YouTube side of things when it comes to Witcher 4 versus Intergalactic. This is the issue with conflating all of these things and applying the same ideas to everything. Intergalactic, it's not a vocal minority. It's very easy to tell that. Witcher 4, I do believe, is very much a vocal minority, and I think that game is gonna do fine, and who knows, I might be dead by the time that game comes out. I don't think it's coming out on the PlayStation 5. I think that's gonna be a PS6 title, and here's something, I think it's gonna be a game deeper into the PS6 life, so, you know, talking about that game at this point, I just think it's so early. Intergalactic, I do see it being a 2026, 2027 game, and yes, we do need to see more gameplay about the game, but when the pushback is this vitriolic and this negative, it's gonna be something hard to come back from, and I really do believe that. You can disagree with me, you can agree with me, it's not about how you personally feel about the game and how you personally are excited about the game. Just understand that this level of pushback is gonna deter a lot of people from buying the game. And do I see this game selling 1 million copies very quickly? Probably. It'll probably sell 1 million copies very quickly. How do you quantify success when it comes to a big budget Naughty Dog title? Naughty Dog hasn't released a game by the time Intergalactic is out for 6 to 7 years. I think it'll do a number that people can view as okay, but as far as relative to a Uncharted 4, relative to a Last of Us Part 2, I think this game has a lot working against it. Also, bear in mind, this is not the Naughty Dog of 2018-2019, where they had an immense amount of goodwill with their consumer base. A lot of that goodwill at this point has been eroded, and just look at the general reaction to The Last of Us 1 getting revealed as a new IP, to the Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Now, again, social media can be a crap show, and it's very, very important to assess what is a vocal minority and what isn't. I think I do a pretty good job of trying to differentiate the two. That's why I bring up the Witcher 4 comparison, because I do feel like the Witcher 4 comparison isn't an apt comparison because that is such a vocal minority. Just look at the reaction on the YouTube comment section, which I feel like that comment section and the YouTube reaction, that is gonna be more applicable to getting everybody's opinion, because YouTube is a platform everybody uses. Not everybody is on Twitter, not everybody is on Blue Sky, not everybody is discussing games on Facebook. I do feel like YouTube is the place where a lot of people do give out their opinions, do like and dislike videos. And generally, I do feel like YouTube is one of the better platforms to get a more all-sides opinion, and that's why I'm using that as a good gauge of barometer. Because, yeah, you can dig up X social media posts. We are talking about the trailers on the official channels here. That's where you are getting the most amount of people interacting with that content, at least you would think. So that's where my 2 cents are coming from as far as that's concerned, and I do think, again, this conflation is what I have an issue with, of conflating Witcher 4 with Intergalactic. Witcher 4 is going to be fine. Intergalactic is the game that I'm a little bit more worried about, but we'll see how all of that turns out in 2026, 2027 when Intergalactic drops, and I'm sure 2030, 2032 for Witcher 4. Hopefully a little bit earlier than that, but we shall see. Moving on from that, Yoshinori Kitase has said that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sales did not disappoint, but they can't be exclusive to a single console anymore. I think we need to offer the game to as many players as possible, is what he said. And this is gonna get me on another different tangent that might upset some PlayStation fans if they really value their Final Fantasy exclusivity. I don't think Final Fantasy should be exclusive to PlayStation anymore. I think they really need to get this game on more platforms, primarily on PC day one. I really think the Xbox sales at this stage of the game would be fairly negligible. Throw it on Xbox, get more people to play the game, but PC is where there is going to be a healthy number of people checking the game out. And digging up the Final Fantasy 16 numbers, as far as that game not doing all that well on Steam and PC, is just mind-blowing to me. Final Fantasy 16 was one of the most divisive Final Fantasy games, and that can really be said for a lot of them recently, but it was one of the more divisive Final Fantasy games of all time. After a year, when the reviews are out and the game kind of got exposed as what it was, a lot of the appeal in that game has been lost. That's just the reality. You want to release the game when the hype and anticipation is at its peak. FF7 Rebirth is about to come out on PC. I see that game doing fairly well, but again, we are long past the peak of that game. You look at the Sony releases on PC, a lot of them have done fairly well, but recently, you know, your Ragnaroks, your Forbidden West, they're doing fine. Are they doing blow-away numbers? No. Ghost of Tsushima did really, really strong numbers, and I just think that's a game that really resonated with the PC audience, and PSN account linking is gonna hurt the PC performance of those games, but with Final Fantasy 16, that's not a game that was just universally praised. I really did enjoy it, but I understand a lot of people's pushback on it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was a game that was universally praised, but on top of it being a one-year delay, it is a game that is a direct sequel to a narrative-heavy game, so I think to look at how Final Fantasy VII Rebirth does on Steam, you have to compare it to a game that would fit a similar criteria, and a game that fits a similar criteria to FF7 Rebirth would be like a Horizon Forbidden West, because that is a direct sequel to a narrative-driven game, and it had a delayed release, a little bit lengthier as far as the delay goes, but I do think releasing it day one would increase the concurrent player counts on Steam by orders of magnitude, and I think there is a large contingency of people that would check out an FF7 Rebirth on PC if it was available day one. I think it'll do fairly well on PC, even with the delay. With Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was just insane how they delayed the game on PC. They had timed exclusivity with the PS4, then they had timed exclusivity with the PS5 with the Intergrade release, then they had timed exclusivity with the Epic Games Store release, and then it came out on Steam like 2.5 years later after the initial PlayStation 4 release. It was just insanity. Like, you can't be doing stuff like that and still expecting the game to do well. And I get that there's this talk of, oh, PlayStation helped out with the development and the game wouldn't be possible without PlayStation's involvement or some crazy stuff like that. Yo, when you got a partnership like that, you're gonna say insane things like that. When you have exclusivity, remember when Sony was talking about Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart would not be possible without the SSD or whatever? Like, you know, it's stuff like that. You're gonna say things that are a little bit of a stretch to justify exclusivity and so on and so forth, but come on, you can get this game on PC day one and it would do very, very well. Ultimately, I think it would also elevate the appeal of those franchises, because by doing these delayed releases, you are releasing the game at the peak for one platform. Ultimately, you are lessening how many people are going to check out the game, and that ultimately will also lessen the fandom around these franchises. You are lessening how many people are invested into Final Fantasy. That is just the reality of how this works. I don't know if Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is going to be released on PC right out the gate. I don't believe it will, because I believe Sony has an exclusivity agreement with all 3 games. I might be wrong about that, but I hope with the future Final Fantasy games, for the success of Final Fantasy going forward, and Square Enix has big expectations for Final Fantasy as far as sales numbers go, it would be best to release the game on as many platforms as possible. Xbox, PC, Nintendo Switch, whatever the case may be, and stop the timed exclusivity nonsense. It benefits Sony because it pushes the PlayStation 5, but do you want to benefit Sony? Sure. If it helps your pocketbook, if they're giving you a big bag of cash, sure. I get that understanding. However, if you're talking about getting the game out to as many people as possible, broadening the appeal of these IPs, well, I'm not saying the PC version would sell as well as the PlayStation version. I do think it would do pretty damn well, and if you can get the game running on the Switch too, I think that is an opportunity as well. Given that FF7 Rebirth, it looks like they're gonna get this game running on the Steam Deck, I don't rule it out of possibility that FF7 Rebirth wouldn't be released on the Nintendo Switch 2 as well, depending on how much power that platform actually has. I think that's totally feasible, but we'll see how all of that turns out. It's an interesting topic to talk about for sure. And lastly, speaking of games that had a PC release and did very well on PC, NieR Automata shipments and digital sales have topped 9 million. Now, NieR Automata was not released day one on PC. However, the PC release, I want to say, came out like a month after the PlayStation release. Let me pick up the exact date. It was March 17th, 2017 on PC, and it was March the 7th, February 23rd in Japan on PlayStation 4, in North America on March the 7th. So the turnaround was fairly quick as far as NieR Automata is concerned, and that game has sold over 9 million shipments and download sales since the release of the game. Now, FF7 will lap that, obviously, but NieR isn't as big of an IP as a Final Fantasy, and I think a lot of NieR's success was from the PC release of the game. Again, I do think PlayStation probably got the bulk of the sales, the majority of the sales, but the game's got 99, almost 100,000 Steam reviews. That's a very, very good number as far as how many Steam reviews the game has, giving you a little bit of an inclination of how many people checked it out, but it did very well on PC, and I think PC gaming has just grown exponentially since then, that in 2025, you should be dropping your games day one on PC, and if you can, Nintendo platforms, Xbox platforms, but I think Nintendo and PC platforms would do much better than, let's say, an Xbox release. Like, how many copies of Fantasia Neo Dimension do you guys think sold on Xbox? I'd be surprised if it was more than, I don't even know. I don't even know how to, like, guess a number like that as far as Fantasia Neo Dimension goes, but, yeah, I don't think it was a lot of copies, but you know what? People having more options isn't a bad thing. I'm all for releasing the games on Xbox. I don't think that's a bad thing whatsoever. However, I think the PC release is what would be so important, and that's why I question something like a Unicorn Overlord as well. Why isn't that game on PC? I think it would do, relative to Unicorn Overlord expectations and Vanillaware's expectations of the game, I think it would do fairly well on PC. And I just think it's important these days to understand your audience and your potential audience is spread across all these different platforms. They're just not on PlayStation. It's not the PS2 era anymore, where releasing Final Fantasy X just on the PS2 made some sense. We're very much away from that era, and these IPs are very big in the West as well, where there is a larger contingency of PC players and so on and so forth. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. We covered a lot in this video. Intergalactic is a game that I think I'm gonna go on the diatribe about, just because I see so much talk about the game, and who knows, I could be very wrong about this game in 2 to 3 years. Well, I don't think I will be. I'm pretty confident in this, and based on this level of social media pushback, I think a lot of people are just so enveloped into their sides of the fire that they can't understand that both sides are people that buy video games, and you would want a more unanimous agreement and excitement, especially for a game like this that is gonna have such a hefty budget attached to it that's slashing a significant portion. The real question is, how significant of a portion is that of your potential buying audience is a really bad thing, whereas Witcher 4 I don't think is doing that, and that's where I think the conflation is very bad to do, and I think it's gonna lead to people being surprised by Witcher 4's number and also surprised by Intergalactic's numbers. I think Witcher 4 is gonna do incredibly well. I think Intergalactic, being a new IP, being Naughty Dog has destroyed a lot of its goodwill, and being that the pushback is so much larger than what it is for Witcher 4, I don't think Intergalactic's gonna do very well, but we'll see how all of that turns out. It looks like Final Fantasy exclusivity is going to be coming to an end, and NieR Automata is selling very, very well. That's going to do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.